The alien ships hovered over Earth like dark clouds, casting long shadows across the land below. For days, their presence was a constant reminder to the people of Earth that they were no longer alone in the universe. It was only a matter of time before the alien forces made their move, and humanity could only prepare the best they could. But as they trained, equipped themselves with outdated weapons, and prepared for war, they were met with mockery. The leaders of the alien forces, towering over the humans in their advanced suits of armor, laughed as they looked down at the tiny human soldiers below. The Earth's military had been called into action, but the aliens couldn't help but find the sight amusing. Their weapons were nothing compared to the mighty armaments of the alien fleet. The human army was small, and their technology was considered primitive at best. Alien generals exchanged glances, smirking at the idea of a fight with these weak forces. How can these creatures even think they have a chance? The alien commander Zalnor said with a tone of pure amusement. His voice echoed through the communication system, reaching all the alien ships surrounding the planet. The human forces, however, stood tall, their posture straight. There was no fear in their eyes, only a quiet determination. Despite the aliens' jeers and laughter, the humans knew something the aliens didn't. They understood that strength didn't only lie in technology or firepower, it lay in spirit, will, and the power of unity. They'd been underestimated for so long, and now, for the first time, the entire world stood together, prepared to face a challenge that no one thought possible. The human leaders gathered in the war rooms, faces grim as they observed the alien ships above. The sounds of the alien laughter still rang in their ears, but they refused to let fear take hold. General Harris, a decorated war veteran and the leader of Earth's defense, looked out across the room at his team. "They think we're weak," he said, his voice steady, though his words carried weight. "But we have something they don't." The room fell silent as everyone waited for him to continue. "We have heart. We have the will to survive. They don't understand that we fight for something greater than just victory. We fight for our families, our homes, and our future. They might have the weapons, but we have the determination to keep going no matter what." The room erupted into a wave of applause. It wasn't much, but it was enough to give everyone in that room the boost they needed. They weren't just fighting for survival, they were fighting for Earth. Back on the front lines, the soldiers geared up, their boots heavy on the ground as they walked to their positions. The alien ships loomed above them, casting a shadow of dread across the battlefield. Every soldier knew what was coming, but they refused to back down. It was their time to prove that humanity would not be crushed under the weight of ridicule. The alien forces began to descend. The human soldiers stood their ground, their eyes trained on the skies, waiting for the inevitable. Then over the comms, a voice broke the silence. General Harris again, but this time his words were full of resolve. "Do not fear. Do not hesitate. Show them that humanity will never back down. Today we prove to them that we are not weak." The first wave of alien soldiers landed with a deafening crash, their armor gleaming under the sun. They looked down at the humans like they were ants, insignificant and weak. The alien forces began to move forward, their weapons aimed at the human forces ready to wipe them out in an instant. The humans, however, didn't flinch. They stood their ground, eyes focused, knowing this moment would define their future. The alien ships hovered silently above them, waiting for their command to fire. But as the first alien soldier aimed its weapon at the humans, something unexpected happened. Instead of cowering, one of the human soldiers stepped forward. Private James Carter, a young soldier who had only recently enlisted, stepped out from behind cover, facing the advancing alien force. His voice was calm, though his heart pounded in his chest. "You think you can just wipe us out because we're small? Because we don't have your fancy technology? Think again." His words echoed across the battlefield, as if the very ground beneath them was listening. The aliens paused, a slight moment of confusion rippling through their ranks. It wasn't fear, but defiance. The humans weren't going to be intimidated. "Foolish humans," the alien commander Zalnor growled, his voice vibrating with irritation. You will regret this. We will crush you all in an instant. The alien forces raised their weapons, but just as the first shots were about to be fired, the unexpected happened. The humans, who had been written off as weak, launched their counterattack. Using guerrilla tactics, they ambushed the aliens. With everything they had. The human forces had no superior technology, but they had strategy. They moved swiftly and unpredictably, taking the aliens by surprise with their innovative tactics. The battle was chaotic. The humans fought with a fury that stunned the aliens. Each shot was calculated, every move was precise. While the aliens' weapons were powerful, the humans' unpredictability was their greatest asset. In the midst of the smoke and dust, the alien forces were beginning to question their initial judgment. They had underestimated humanity. They had assumed the humans would crumble under the pressure, but they had only seen the surface. They had no idea what lay beneath. As the smoke cleared, Zalnor looked down at the human forces, no longer laughing, no longer mocking. For the first time he saw something in the humans' eyes, something that he hadn't expected. It was not fear, it was determination. The mockery had faded, and in its place there was a growing realization among the alien forces. They had made a grave mistake. Humanity was not weak, and they were about to learn that the hard way. The battle was far from over, but humanity's true strength had begun to show. The aliens had mocked them, underestimated them, but now they would face the consequences, and the humans would never back down. The battlefield was a wasteland of dust and debris. The sky above was filled with alien ships that seemed to blot out the sun, their weapons aimed at Earth below. It was a surreal sight, one that humanity had never imagined in their wildest dreams. Yet here they were, standing ready to face an unimaginable enemy. The first shot rang out, cutting through the silence like a clap of thunder. The humans had no choice but to react quickly. General Harris stood in his command center, eyes glued to the monitors. His heart raced as the first wave of alien soldiers began to advance. Their powerful weapons glinted in the sunlight and their armor seemed impenetrable. But it was too late for the aliens to rethink their assumptions. Humanity had already made its move. We can't match their firepower directly, but we can outmaneuver them, Harris said, his voice steady as he gave the order. The soldiers on the ground, equipped with makeshift weapons and technology, moved swiftly. They darted from cover to cover, launching small but deadly surprise attacks. They didn't have the strength of the alien forces, but they had something more important: tactics. The first clash was brutal. The alien soldiers, expecting an easy victory, were taken aback by the humans' resilience. Alien lasers cut through the air, but humans were quick, dodging and firing back. Explosions rocked the ground as humans used everything they could to turn the tide of battle. Private James Carter, the same soldier who had boldly stepped forward earlier, was now in the heat of the battle. His pulse pounded in his ears, and his breath came in sharp bursts as he fired his weapon at an alien soldier. But he wasn't just shooting at the aliens, he was shooting to survive. His rifle kicked in his hands as he aimed carefully, his eyes narrowing as the alien soldier's shield flickered. With a single shot, the shield cracked, and the alien soldier fell. Carter didn't stop to celebrate. He had no time. There were more soldiers to fight, more enemies to face. The air was thick with tension as humans and aliens clashed in the streets. Despite their seemingly superior technology, the alien forces found themselves struggling to keep up with the humans' guerrilla tactics. The humans didn't fight like warriors, they fought like survivors. Each shot fired was calculated, each movement made with purpose. On the front lines, General Harris could hear the enemy forces radioing for reinforcements. "They're retreating," one of his officers shouted, eyes wide in disbelief. The human forces had gained ground, and for the first time the aliens were starting to panic. They had underestimated the humans, and now it seemed like they were in for a shock. But the fight wasn't over. Not yet. The alien commander Zalnor had not given up. He was furious at the humans for daring to stand against him, furious at his forces for failing. In his mind, there was no way the humans could win. "Prepare for orbital bombardment," Zalnor ordered through clenched teeth. His ships in orbit had been waiting for the right moment to strike, and now it was time to bring the full force of the alien empire to bear on Earth. But the humans weren't finished yet. "We can't let them have the upper hand," General Harris said, his voice hard as steel. "We'll hold them off as long as we can. We fight for Earth. We fight for every man, woman, and child on this planet." The tension was palpable. The humans continued to press on, using every resource at their disposal. They were a far cry from the well-equipped alien forces, but they fought like lions, unwilling to give in. As the battle raged on, it became clear to the aliens that they had made a critical mistake. This was no longer just a skirmish. It was a fight for survival. The alien ships hovered ominously above the battlefield, their weapons aimed and ready to unleash devastation on the human forces below. But there was something in the air, a feeling that was hard to describe. It was as if the humans had become more than just soldiers. They had become a force of nature, a collective will to survive that no alien weapon could crush. In a final desperate attempt to wipe out the human forces, Zalnor gave the order for orbital bombardment. A high-pitched whine filled the air as the alien ships fired their lasers toward Earth. The sky seemed to tear apart as the first blasts hit the ground, sending shockwaves of destruction through the battlefield. Buildings crumbled. Soldiers were knocked off their feet, but the humans didn't give up. Amid the chaos, a group of soldiers launched a counterattack. Using scavenged alien tech, they managed to hack into one of the alien ship's communication systems. They sent a message that was heard by all the ships in the fleet. "This is Earth, and we are not finished." The message was clear. Humanity would not go down without a fight. The aliens' confusion grew. The destruction was immense, but the human forces were far from defeated. The enemy couldn't comprehend what they were seeing. How could a species they had deemed weak fight so ferociously? As the dust cleared, the alien forces began to regroup, realizing they had underestimated their adversaries. The humans, though battered and bruised, were still standing. They hadn't broken. They hadn't fallen. They were still fighting, and they would continue fighting until the very end. General Harris watched the battlefield through the monitor, his expression grim. But there was a spark in his eyes, a spark of hope. "They think we're weak," he muttered. "Let's show them what we're made of." The battle was far from over, but humanity's true strength was beginning to emerge, and the aliens would soon learn that underestimating humans was the greatest mistake they could make. The smoke from the bombardment still hung in the air like a dense fog, and the battlefield was nothing short of chaos. Bodies of alien soldiers littered the ground, but the humans had taken heavy losses as well. Their lines were thinning, and the alien forces were regrouping, preparing for another assault. The Earth soldiers were battered, but they had not been broken. Private James Carter crouched behind a ruined building, wiping sweat from his brow. His heart raced, and every breath felt heavier than the last. His rifle was jammed from the constant use, and his hands trembled with exhaustion. Yet his mind was sharp, focused. He could hear the sound of alien footsteps marching ever closer. The battle was far from over, and the humans were running out of time. In the command center, General Harris paced back and forth, staring at the monitors. His soldiers were holding their ground, but barely. The alien ships had pulled back, regrouping above the atmosphere. Harris could hear the distant hum of their weaponry charging. They were preparing for a final strike, one that would wipe out the rest of Earth's defenses. "They're coming for us," Harris said, his voice low. "We can't afford to lose any more ground. We need to hit them where it hurts." Suddenly a voice came through the comms, crackling but clear. "General Harris, this is Private Carter. We have a plan, sir. It's risky, but it might just work." Harris raised an eyebrow. "Go ahead, Carter. What do you have in mind?" "We've been studying their technology, sir. They rely on an energy signature that powers their ships and weapons. It's heavily guarded, but we've found a way to bypass their security systems. If we can infiltrate their ship's central core, we can disable their weapons long enough to turn the tide of battle. It's our only shot." Harris felt a surge of hope. It was a bold plan, one that could cost them everything, but it was their best chance. He didn't hesitate. Do it. We'll support you. Take whatever you need. Carter's voice was steady despite the fear in his chest. Roger that, sir. The human soldiers moved quickly and silently, utilizing their knowledge of alien technology and their skills in guerrilla warfare to infiltrate the alien fleet. They worked their way through the smoke-filled streets, avoiding the alien patrols, and staying hidden in the shadows. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but they had something the aliens didn't: knowledge and adaptability. Back on the battlefield, the aliens began their final charge, their massive weapons locked and loaded. Their fleet descended from the sky, casting an ominous shadow over the humans below. The ground shook as the aliens made their move, confident that the humans had been exhausted, that their defenses would collapse under the weight of the impending onslaught. But as the aliens advanced, something unexpected happened. The ground began to rumble, not from their ships but from below. The earth itself seemed to shake as if responding to the humans' resolve. Then, from the distance, a series of explosions erupted near the alien command center. One by one, the alien ships began to lose their shields, their weapons faltering. "What's happening?" Zalnor barked, watching in disbelief as his fleet began to sputter and falter. This wasn't supposed to happen. Private Carter and his team had made it into the heart of the alien fleet, using their knowledge of the alien technology to hack into their systems and disable the weapons. They had risked everything to infiltrate the enemy's stronghold, and now it seemed their gamble was paying off. In the chaos, the alien forces began to retreat, confused and disoriented. Their superior technology was now their greatest weakness, and the humans were capitalizing on it. The humans weren't just fighting with weapons, they were fighting with strategy, with knowledge, and with a deep-seated will to protect their world. "General, we did it!" Carter's voice rang through the comms, filled with triumph. "The alien fleet is disabled. Their weapons are offline. We have a chance." Harris stood tall, his face a mixture of disbelief and hope. "Hold the line, Private. Hold the line." The human forces seized the opportunity, charging forward with renewed vigor. The alien forces, now vulnerable, were no match for the relentless attack that came from all sides. The humans fought with an unyielding ferocity, striking at the alien ships with everything they had. The battlefield was now in their favor. As the dust cleared, the alien forces began to scatter, their retreat turning into a rout. They had underestimated the humans. They had mocked their weak forces, assuming that their advanced technology would be enough to crush Earth's defenses. But they had overlooked the one thing that truly mattered: the spirit of humanity. In the midst of the chaos, Carter looked up at the sky, his eyes scanning the horizon. The alien ships were retreating, leaving Earth to stand victorious. He could hardly believe it. After everything, after the mockery, the alien bombardment, the endless struggle, the humans had turned the tide. Zalnor, the once confident alien commander, watched as his forces crumbled before the unstoppable tide of humanity. "Impossible," he muttered, his voice filled with frustration and disbelief. "How could this happen?" As the last of the alien ships retreated, humanity stood tall. The battle was far from over, but Earth had proven something that day, something the aliens would never forget. Humans were not weak, and they would never be underestimated again. The sun hung low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the battlefield as the alien forces continued their retreat. But the humans knew that the victory was not yet certain. The alien command center, the heart of their fleet, was still intact, and their forces, although weakened, were not entirely defeated. Zalnor, furious and desperate, had retreated to the final bastion of alien power, a massive citadel that loomed over the battlefield, guarded by the remnants of his most powerful warriors. General Harris stood atop a rocky outcrop, surveying the scene. His soldiers had fought valiantly, but the alien fleet was not going to surrender so easily. The human forces had struck a blow, but now it was time for the final push. The fate of Earth depended on whether they could breach the citadel and stop Zalnor once and for all. "We've come this far," Harris said, his voice firm but tired. "We've shown them what we can do. Now let's finish this." The troops gathered around him, eyes steely with determination. They had already survived the worst. The bombs, the alien weapons, the endless fights, it had all led to this moment. It wasn't just about saving Earth anymore, it was about proving humanity's place in the universe. The final assault began. A small force of elite soldiers, including Private Carter, was selected to infiltrate the Citadel. They knew it would be a suicide mission. The alien defenses were still formidable and they had no guarantee of survival. But there was no turning back. As they approached the Citadel, the ground trembled with the impact of alien artillery from within. Zalnor wasn't about to let them simply walk in. But the humans were no longer the underdogs. They had adapted, learned, and turned the alien weapons against them. The first wave of alien defense fell quickly. Human soldiers moved like shadows, striking fast and silently. The aliens, though technologically advanced, were no match for the humans' guerrilla tactics, honed in their struggle for survival. Private Carter's team, moving with precision, broke into the Citadel's outer walls. Inside, they found a maze of corridors, alive with the buzzing hum of alien technology. Their mission was simple: disable the Citadel's central command, the source of Zalnor's power, and cripple the alien fleet once and for all. As they advanced deeper into the Citadel, they encountered more resistance. Alien soldiers appeared from hidden alcoves, their weapons drawn. But Carter and his team were faster. Each firefight was brief, efficient, and deadly. It wasn't the overwhelming firepower that won the day. It was the humans' speed, unpredictability, and tenacity. They had learned how to fight in ways that the aliens couldn't anticipate. The deeper they ventured, the more the alien defense seemed to crumble. The Citadel, once a symbol of alien superiority, was now being overtaken. But they still had a long way to go. The heart of the Citadel, where Zalnor waited, was still beyond reach. As they neared the command center, Zalnor's voice echoed throughout the Citadel. "You think you can defeat me, pathetic creatures? You are nothing. You are weak, insignificant." His voice reverberated through the halls, but Carter's resolve was unshaken. "We're not weak," he muttered under his breath. "We're human." The final battle took place in the heart of the Citadel, a massive chamber filled with alien technology, a pulsing core at its center. Zalnor stood waiting, flanked by his elite guard. The tension in the room was palpable as the alien commander sneered at the humans who had made their way so far. "You have fought bravely, I'll give you that," Zalnor said, his voice cold. "But this is where it ends. You will kneel before the might of the alien empire." But the humans didn't kneel. They didn't flinch. They stood tall, prepared for the final confrontation. Carter, his weapon aimed at Zalnor, was the first to speak. "You underestimated us," he said, his voice filled with certainty. "You mocked us, called us weak, but we're not just fighting to survive. We're fighting for our home, for everything we love. And you'll learn that the hard way." Zalnor's eyes narrowed. "You think your willpower can overcome our strength? It is not enough." But Carter didn't hesitate. With a swift motion, he activated the alien tech they had commandeered, and the Citadel's systems began to short-circuit. Sparks flew as alien defenses malfunctioned. Zalnor's elite guard moved forward to protect their leader, but it was too late. The human soldiers, once thought to be weak, now showed their strength in a way the alien commander could never have predicted. With calculated precision, they disabled the core, sending a shockwave through the Citadel. The alien ships in orbit began to fall from the sky as their power sources were crippled. Zalnor's sneer turned into a grimace of disbelief. "Impossible!" The alien commander lunged at Carter, but the humans had the advantage. In a final, decisive move, Carter and his team subdued Zalnor, and the alien forces began to crumble. The battle was over. Humanity had won. As the Citadel's core imploded, the last of the alien ships fell from the sky, crashing into the distant mountains. The once mighty alien empire, who had mocked Earth's weak forces, was defeated, and standing amidst the wreckage was the human army, battered but victorious. General Harris looked out over the battlefield. a sense of pride swelling in his chest. "We've shown them," he said quietly. "We've shown them that humanity will never be underestimated again." As the sun set on the battlefield, the human soldiers stood together, their victory hard-earned but well-deserved. They had faced the impossible, and they had triumphed. The universe would never forget the day humanity stood up and proved its strength. The ground was littered with the wreckage of the once feared alien forces. Broken ships, scattered debris, and the remnants of alien technology lay scattered across the battlefield. Humanity had emerged victorious, but the cost of their victory was evident. The air was thick with the smell of smoke, and the groans of the injured echoed across the war-torn landscape. Yet amidst the devastation there was a sense of triumph, a quiet, collective realization that they had achieved the impossible. Private James Carter stood on a hill, overlooking the field of victory. His heart pounded in his chest, the adrenaline still coursing through his veins. His rifle was slung across his shoulder, its barrel smoking from the intense battles it had seen. He looked down at the ruins of the alien citadel, the once pristine command center now reduced to rubble. The human forces had crippled the heart of the alien empire, bringing them to their knees. For a moment, Carter allowed himself to breathe. The battle was over. They had won. But as the smoke began to clear, the silence that followed felt heavy, almost surreal. The humans had fought bravely, but the cost had been great. Many soldiers had fallen in battle, and countless others were wounded. Yet they had done what was thought to be impossible. They had defeated an enemy far superior in strength, technology, and firepower. General Harris stood beside Carter, his face drawn but proud. He surveyed the field, his mind still processing the scale of the victory. "We did it," Harris said quietly, his voice tinged with disbelief. "We showed them that we're not weak." Carter nodded, but his thoughts were elsewhere. He had seen so much death, so much destruction. The victory felt hollow despite its importance. He looked at the faces of the soldiers around him, many of them still in shock, some crying, others staring ahead with empty eyes. They had lost comrades, friends, people they would never see again. The victory was theirs, but it had come at a heavy price. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the battlefield, a loud cheer rose from the soldiers who had survived. It was a cheer of relief, of pride, and of unshakable determination. They had stood up to an empire that had laughed at them, that had belittled their strength, and now they were the ones standing tall. The alien fleet, once a symbol of overwhelming power, was now in ruins. The ships that had threatened Earth were now lying in flames, their advanced technology rendered useless by the humans' ingenuity and determination. The alien forces who had mocked humanity as weak now faced the ultimate consequence of their underestimation, their defeat. In the distance, a group of alien survivors, their once proud fleet decimated, could be seen retreating into the horizon. Sal Noor, the alien commander, had been captured and was now being held in a human detention facility. He too had learned the hard way that mocking humanity's strength had been a grave mistake. General Harris and his officers walked toward the remains of the alien citadel, where the final remnants of the alien command were being gathered. Harris stopped and turned to Carter. "Private, you led the charge. You proved that humanity's strength doesn't lie in technology alone. It lies in our hearts, our will, and our unity." Carter, still processing the enormity of the situation, looked at the general and nodded. "We didn't fight just for survival, sir. We fought for something greater. We fought for each other, for Earth." Harris smiled, a rare expression of warmth breaking through his usual stoic demeanor. "You've earned it, son. Humanity's place in this galaxy will never be the same again." The sound of engines whirring grew louder as Earth's fleet began to rise from the surface, taking the survivors and the wounded back to safety. The sky was filled with humanity's pride. Ships that had once been considered insignificant now soared with newfound purpose. They had faced an enemy that had mocked them, belittled them, and sought to destroy them. And now, they were the victors. As the soldiers boarded the ships and began their journey back to Earth, Carter couldn't help but reflect on everything that had transpired. It had been a war like no other. But it wasn't just about the fight. It was about the spirit of humanity, the resilience, the refusal to give up, the unwavering belief that no matter how dire the odds, humanity would always find a way to rise. And rise they did. Back on Earth, the news spread like wildfire. The aliens, who had once looked down on humanity, had been defeated. The planet Earth, now united as never before, had shown the galaxy that humanity's strength wasn't in its technology, its weapons, or its resources. It was in its heart. The victory over the alien forces would go down in history as one of the greatest moments in human achievement. But it wasn't just about the battle. It was about the message it sent to the stars. Humanity would not be underestimated. Humanity would fight, not just for survival but for their place in the universe. The humans had proven that no matter how much they were mocked, no matter how small or weak they were thought to be, they had the power to change the fate of entire galaxies. And the galaxy would never forget the day humanity stood up, fought back, and won.